Welcome back. My name is Yana the Heretic, and this is my channel, The Unpopular Opinion, Becoming Popular. And we are going to be talking about the current transit, finally. And it is under Lakshmi. It's a throat gate, and it is the gate of change, gate 35. And the gate of change is progress or prosperity in the I Ching. Totally let myself lose my place, but give me a sec here. Here we go. We got this hexagram here, and this is the ability to choose what you need to change, what a part of your life needs to change, what in your setting needs to change. How do you see yourself in the mirror? Do you like what you see in the mirror? How can you change yourself or your environment or what you're doing in order to be the most prosperous form that you have ever been? And I consider this to be one of the ADHD gates that I have. And the reason is because life is extremely stimulating. You know, we have all of these things in our arsenal that we have to take care of, all of these, routines, rituals, cooking, feeding ourselves, brushing our teeth, brushing our hair, all these things, that we have to address every single day, every single week. Life is extremely stimulating, and, unless you have this independent role on how to take care of all of your things, you cross your T's or dot whatever, like, I consider this to be my ADHD gate, because I do want to learn how to do a lot in life. I never really liked being the damsel of distress and not being able to learn as much as I could have when I was younger. I grew up in a very sheltered, religious background, so I never really got to branch out and do the things that I wanted to learn about. And now I almost had to make up for it. Like, ever since I was 20 years old or 18 years old, like, I really wanted to make up for all of the experiences lost, because I didn't want to fall behind. I didn't want to be inconsistent. I didn't want to be relying on anybody else for being smart or being an individual, or, I had a lot of cars break down when I was younger, and, I had to learn how to take care of it the hard way, and put oil in your old ass vehicle, and, because I didn't like having to ask, all these like boys or whomever to help me out, because it just feels like, oh wow, like, you know nothing. And fortunately enough for me, I didn't stay in that place. I wanted to learn how to take care of the things that I own. And aside from that, it's, this like energy of, I feel it's time for change, or I struggle with prioritizing what comes first, because I really love every single component of what I enjoy doing. I love being a gear tech. I love educating. I love piercing and creating and being a musician. And, it's really hard for me to cut cords with all these facets of who I am, and it could be very overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. But sometimes, for your own benefit, you have to change what's going on, or you have to change the environment that you're in, which I had just done, in order to be able to handle and grapple and become the form that you want. Because without, like, the ability to have peace, to study and to experiment. It's just not going to happen that easily. You're going to be stressed the fuck out. I really love the saying jack of all trades and a master of none, but the true ending didn't get told to me until later in life, which is but oftentimes better than being a master of one, you know, because since I have this, I'm gonna have to say that, you know, I'm gonna have to embody that, because I like being able to know little bits of how to take care of this part of my life, this part of my life, this part of my life. Or, you know, I like to be able to handle this physics that I was telling you about. I want to be balanced as a person and well-rounded in order to be in many different circles and be in all these people's shoes, because therefore I know how to educate many different types of people. I know how to work with many types of people. I like having these differences. I like going to a new place and experiencing different cultures and seeing how I fit in, or how I can respect these cultures better and maintain a better understanding of their traditions. Because not for entrepreneurial thing, but for being well-rounded in history and not just speaking out of complete ignorance or cultural appropriation or whatever it is. Like, I really enjoy knowing all these traditions, and I am pretty flighty. Because this is a Gemini gate, they like to travel a lot, they like to speak a lot, you know, and this is very much, you know, the gate that wants to actually physically go somewhere and experience something new. And that's how I've always been. I've always wanted to travel. I've always wanted to go out. I have this, I'm on the left angle of, what was it? Excuse me, hold on. Left angle across of migration. So I'm meant to move around. I am meant to see the way that people live and to see what they have, you know, to offer to the land, you know, and like really how they've been able to survive in certain climates or whatever else, you know. It's just so interesting. It's more of like being able to go to that place and obtain that knowledge right off the bat, instead of, you know, just assuming that the television's going to provide you the experience. Yeah, and I also hate it when there's like somebody mansplaining me, or, you know, that word's used a lot in culture. It's not specifically a man, but anyone just kind of telling me what I should think about the subject or how I should feel. It gives me a good direction on what to be aware of, but I don't really take that to heart fully unless I experience it myself. But yeah, I've had to learn how to be here in Washington, you know, for the last 5 years throughout COVID. And I've wanted to jump into other things constantly. I wanted to cut the cycle short a lot of the time, but it's like, why would I do that? You know, I've experienced how flighty I have been in the past, and it's been, you know, there's certain things that I wished I had actually like stayed with in life. And I've had to learn how to adapt to that. And having somebody with root definition, that's my partner, has been extremely helpful, because, you know, he tells me every day, like, this is what you're going to be a master of. This is what you're going to achieve. you know, of course, my brain's like, eventually, with time, I am going to master all of these trades. You know, if only we can be immortal, you know, that's really how I'm sure a ton of people feel in life. It's like, why can't I oversee this whole entire project myself, you know? Yeah, it's extremely freeing to be that independent. It's extremely safe to me being able to be like that. And it keeps my life really interesting. It keeps me going because I'm getting like reawakened and realivened, and like there's no part of myself that is numb, because I'm just constantly getting inspired and stimulated by new things. And truly, that is the way that I like to be. I like to be influenced by a lot in my environment, and see how that plays a role in my music and my art and my poetry. The downside of this, which is part of the incarnation cross of consciousness, despite the left angle cross of separation. So having the consciousness there keeps you tethered to the one skill that you wish you have, and the one that you wish that you stayed with, the form that you wish that you stayed with. So it allows you to be more conscientious of how you're affecting people, because you're just moving from one thing to the next. Like, it can be quite rude and a dead end, or emotionless, or unempathic, you know, because specifically pertains to this is a channel of sexual talent, giggity, because, you know, this can be related to the relationships that you have, specifically the relationships that you have been in. If you tend to give up on people more often than staying with them, this shows up in this gate for sure. It's like the person that's never satiated by one human being. They just go from one person to the next. And believe me, like, I've been there, and I see how much I have grown in just one relationship. Because my desire to be able to work with people that are different from me has really highlighted so much for me. It's like, well, like, my love for this person has not shifted just because they're that much different from me. I don't really need to experience so many different people in life. And that in itself, like, all of these things can change. You can go through phases of change, but the reality is you experience it first. You experience the value that it has, and then, you know, the lesson really here for this gate is that nothing ever lasts. It's a hard lesson to learn because, you know, the times are constantly changing, technology is constantly changing. You know, we have a lot of different things that we just have to deal with when it comes down to stimulation and the things that we have to constantly adapt to, because the way that we and the world gets powered by energy can eventually change. And that means no outlets in the walls, you know. It's like gonna look way different. It's gonna be, oh, well, now presidents and people can go to space, and who knows what that's gonna fucking do. So, you know, we really see how constant change can make us fall flat on our face and affect other people around us and become like a total asshole. You know, if you don't value morals and you don't value people, you know, if you just keep going through one relationship to the next without really sitting and adapting to life. What will life be like with this person? And then you lose the muse. It's easy to have the muse slip from your fingers because you're still dealing with those pains in your heart that nothing is satisfactory and nothing can satiate your desires or cravings. It's just another face, another body, another person. And that's when you have the left angle of separation occur, because, you know, you're separate from what ignites you and constantly changing even your atmosphere and your environment. You have to have the resources and the money and the community so that you can be accepted in this new place. How are you going to find your basic needs? How are you going to adapt to those things? It's very difficult for a lot of people unless you have entire detachment from all of these things, and these roads are completely open for you to traverse upon. We have had the channel of transitoriness the most within the last year, and it is active this week as well, which is the 35-36. And 35 and 36 actually hold a very chemical reaction. It's considered the channel of sexual talent, right? So the 35 and the 36 find themselves very interesting and very juicy and very alluring, and they tend to be some of the most like intense, immense, pleasurable relationships, specifically physically too, you know. And it also is inspiring for a lot of artists because the 36 is the gate of crisis and the darkening of the light. So it is the person that sits in the emotional center that has these moods that they're in constantly. They have a lot of feelings and emotions towards certain subjects, and the 35 is just like ready to jump into whatever like ebbs and flows. So they tend to be super interesting to one another because the 36 gives something that the 35 can respond to constantly, because they're constantly changing like their mood. So yeah, I have this whole entire channel. If you have any questions on what that feels and looks like, please don't hesitate to ask. I hope that you have a huge craving and you imprint rich memories within this week. And that whatever changes you make, it makes you, you know, welcome your appearance in the mirror. I get frustrated with my appearance in the mirror, but that just means that there's more to go. There's more to experience and to master to make myself feel satiated with my own self. You know, I'm satisfied with my own self, and therefore I can be prosperous and confident. Thank you for sitting this full ass 18 minutes with me, because it is a really potent gate for me. I have a lot of experience living through it. And the questions of the week: have you ever peaked on life? That completely full-chested feeling to run or jump, to trampoline into Narnia. How does this transit compare to that? What have you sampled that you didn't expect you would be into? How has that changed who you are today? You may like walk into a club and you start to dance a dance you never danced. You might walk away being a completely different person. I definitely have. What feeling really highlights this week for you? Is the change invited or dismissed, even if it is inevitable? And what is your dream vacation or road trip? What stops would you make while you were there? So it's kind of going back to the cross of planning last week. It's like, what do you wish to do, really? What holds you to a certain place? That's the only ease you can really get out of this gate, if you have it, is, okay, I better, you know, chill the fuck out and be tethered to this because I want to actually experience all that this has to offer. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely subscribe and definitely visit electromagnetic-identity.com if you wish to learn about yourself. Definitely book a reading with me. I appreciate and care for you all in your own ceaseless becoming. See you next video.